So I'm just going to go through some of the basics of getting started. I know we do have longer videos to cover some of these topics, so I'm going to be skimming a little bit. And of course, if you have any questions at the end, we can go over things in more detail. Practice mode allows you to see the system as if you had gotten everything set up without actually setting anything up. So when you're brand new, we understand it can take a lot of time to kind of get set up. So the practice mode allows you to look around, see what it's going to look like, and then also get an idea of what the typical setup would be and the typical flow. So when you are setting up, then you can understand it a little bit better. And you can, of course, jump into practice mode at any time in the user menu up here. And in practice mode, again, you can see everything as if you were running a business and this is happening today. And you can perform actions, like you can assign visits and all the normal stuff that you would typically do. So you can play around with it. And in practice mode, even more so than when you're testing it out yourself back in live mode, like you can really play around. You can try to break stuff. If you make mistakes, it doesn't matter because you can just rebuild practice mode. So we don't generate any invoices in practice mode automatically, but that's even something that you could do if you wanted to see the flow for invoices. You can invoice any of the visits that are existing in there. And your staff, of course, can use practice mode. Now, for pet sitters, it's a little bit different. You may want to assign them training visits, which is not done in practice mode. That's just done in the regular live mode. And the training visits essentially allow them to perform shadow visits that clients never actually see. That would be when you're adding a new visit, you would choose a training visit. So getting set up, usually you're going to start in the business settings. We try to have these settings kind of default to what is most common, but they will of course differ for how you run your business and also whether you use independent contractors or employees. There are different settings that will align more with those business types. Some of the more important ones are letting clients create their own account. So you may have the clients go through your website and submit a form, and you're going to kind of verify them before you actually want them in the system. And if you were doing all of that through your own website, you'd probably want to turn clients can create their own account off, as it does when it's on, clients can just go create an account without your intervention at all. That may or may not be a good thing depending on how you do onboarding. The cancellation choices. So when you cancel visits, these are the choices that appear for you. And these policies, visit request policy, that's what clients see when they're requesting visits. The cancellation policy is what clients see when they're canceling visits. That's all really important to have in place on the client side. Tags can be helpful as visual indicators for pets or clients, or they can even be used for staff. And of course, your client fields and pet fields, which I'm going to jump out of practice mode now because it's not editable in practice mode. These are especially important when you're first getting started, these client fields and pet fields. These are the fields that when you are adding client profiles or when your clients are filling out their profiles, this is what they see. This is what is required. So prior to importing, prior to having actual clients registering, you want to make sure that these fields are set up the way that you would like them to be. You don't want clients in the system and then you realize, oh, there's all these other important things that I need from the clients, but they're already in the system. So these two, client fields, pet fields, are especially important even before importing. That's one of the first things that you want to set up. Another big one is the visit time display mode. This determines when you are scheduling visits on the administrative side, whether you're only using the time blocks, and time blocks are the customizable windows of time which you're scheduling visits in, or if you're also setting specific times. Now, the specific times are only visible to staff. Clients don't see those, so specific times are internal use only. But if you really want to be specific about what time your pet sitters are at visits, you'd want to use specific times. And this may be more one of those employees versus independent contractor settings, where if you're letting your staff handle it, maybe they're more independent contractors, then you're going to lean towards time block only, and vice versa. Pet sitter assignment mode. This is when you're assigning visits to pet sitters. This is what they get to do. This is another big one for employees versus independent contractors. Employees, you may not give them the choice. So you would want to immediately add to their schedule. Whereas if they're treated more like independent contractors, you may give them the option to accept or decline, or just to accept. Time and miles tracking is something that you can turn on to be able to track all of the GPS data when pet sitters are driving throughout their day, which you can then use later on to have their total mileage driving if you're going to reimburse them for that. Or also on the other side, it also tracks time at the same time. So if you pay your sitters hourly, or you just want to know how long they are out there, you could use the time and mileage tracking for either one of those things. Pet care journals, most everyone uses them at this point. This is essentially the report card that pet sitters are sending to clients after they perform visits. And let me just mention briefly, because this is somewhat new, PPC Labs, if you're brand new, you may not want to play around with this, but this does have some features that are actively in testing that you may find very helpful if you look into it. Probably something you want to be more comfortable with the system before you start turning these things on. But these are all things you can turn on, turn off if you don't like them. Very helpful things. All right, so let's go business settings, service settings, operations, service settings. All right, so the time blocks and base services are the two most important things that you're setting up in the service settings. Think of the time blocks as, say, if a client was calling you on the phone. This is the answer to the when question. And when for you may be different than other people. And the most typical ones would be like a morning, afternoon, midday, something like that. Some companies like to be much more specific. They may actually have times. Some companies are even more specific. They have 1 hour window of time. And when you're setting up your base services, you will select any number of these time blocks. So then when a client is performing their request, they choose the base service first, which is the answer to the what question. And then the when question is the time block. So let's just look at the base services real quick. Typically, it's going to be something like pet sitting or dog walking. But you may have many different services. When you are setting these up, the best use case is to have as few services as possible, which just makes things easier across the board, especially for clients when they're scheduling. So we have many different options for the services that can adjust the price. So instead of having separate base services for different prices, you can do something like using the additional pet pricing to change the price depending on the number of pets that are there. The description, that's good for clients to see when they're scheduling. Oh, and here we are. Here are the time blocks that we choose. So when clients choose this service, these are the time blocks that they can choose from. If you leave the service name blank for clients, they are not requestable for clients. So you may want to have services that on the administrative end, you can set the visits as that service type, but you don't let clients request them. Some other ways you can add to the price without having separate services are surcharges. The ones you see here are probably the most common ones: holiday, or last minute, or early or late request. And that just adds on to the price of the visit automatically. All right, billing. Let's go to the billing settings here. All right, so billing settings, setting up your online payments can be important depending on what payment gateway you use. The ones that we support are, let me see, Stripe, Authorize.net, and all of those, which we have in the support articles, of course. Automatic credit card processing, you may want to charge cards automatically, which you can do if you have open invoices that have been sent to the client and the client has a card on file and automatic credit card processing is on. So it is possible through the automatic invoicing and automatic card processing to not touch anything with the billing. Essentially have the system do the invoicing for you on whatever schedule you would like, which is pretty customizable. Clients get sent the invoice automatically, and then it charges automatically on the due date. So that's typically the ultimate goal for companies, is to have that all automated, that whole process. When you're first getting started, we recommend, when you're using the auto invoicing, to send invoices to clients manually. That gives you a chance the first run or two to just look at the invoices after they've been generated, make sure that's what you expect, and then send them. And then once you're comfortable, the system's doing everything okay, invoicing, then set that to immediately. Sure. I'm sorry, I missed that.
So if I do client, and then I send out the confirmation that, yes, I just booked your service. There's the dates and times the pet sitter is going to be there. Does that not also include how much money they are going to pay for that service, or is that a separate email?
That's separate. The confirmations don't include any prices.
So to send out 2 emails then, correct?
Yeah, the invoices are separate from confirmations. Okay, so let's go.
The question is, well, so
Sure.
I had a client also tell me, and I saw it as well, that it only has an option to put our Venmo, but is there any option to put Zelle?
To put what?
Zelle?
Oh, Zelle. Zelle does not have an API. So you can accept Zelle outside of the system and then add the transaction in as if someone were handing you a check. But
That's what I've been doing. I was
Yeah.
just curious to see if there was a Zelle option.
yeah,
That works.
they're not really made for businesses. They don't want you just using that for the fees. So the flow you're doing is the flow that you would need to keep doing.
Okay, that works. Thanks.
All right, let me just jump to the communication settings.
So let me ask another question about invoicing or the confirmation. So when the confirmation goes out, does it actually go to the client and to the pet sitter?
Confirmations are not sent to pet sitters. Those only go to clients.
So how does the pet sitter know that I just booked a fit for them?
Yeah, you would assign them the visit, and then that assignment would give them the new assignment email, which that goes to them. It's a different flow. Pet sitters get the assignment emails, clients get the confirmation emails. They're separate emails, separate actions.
So I'm gonna have to send 3 emails out for each booking that I do.
The confirmation emails can be automatic, and the assignment emails would be just part of the flow. Like when you're assigning the sitter, like you assign them, and then that immediately sends the email. And if you have auto invoicing on, then that would be automated. You wouldn't have to manually send out the invoice.
So the client then is going to get 2 emails, correct?
If you wanted them to get confirmations and the invoices, yes, those would be 2 separate emails. Our communication settings. Okay, I think the most important thing in the communication settings is just knowing that all of the actions that will trigger emails or push notifications can be configured here in the Office, Pet Sitters, and Clients tabs. So you may want to choose when clients are going to get emails, when pet sitters are going to get emails. You may not want them to get some emails. This is where you would turn everything on and off. In the Office section, you can also choose a specific email or email addresses that they get sent to if there is something other than your business email address. All right, so the next thing would be setting up your staff. So on the staff page, this is where you're going to create their account, going to send them a password. The different account types, administrators have access to everything, can see everything. Managers, when you're setting up a manager, you want to make sure to set their page permissions. That tells the system what they can actually see. And if you're using territories, territory permissions also would limit what they could see. If you had territories that your clients were in and a manager has access to the client's page, they would only be able to see the clients that are in their territory. Financials, if you want them to actually see prices and pay, that's up to you. There's a lot of different ways to use the manager position that's very flexible. All right, and pet sitters, their access is automatic just based on what you have assigned to them. For pet sitter accounts, they have access to to set pages, and then on those pages, they can only access the clients that they have access to. So if you have assigned a pet sitter visits to this client, they're going to be able to see the information for that client. If they're not assigned visits for the client, they don't see information about the client. And we talked about practice mode. Practice mode is available for pet sitters or managers. If you set up a manager in practice mode, they cannot get out of it themselves. You need to toggle it on and off for them. Clients and pets. So now we're at the point where getting your clients in the system, whether it's through importing, which is under tools, import, or by adding them, that would be where you are now. And I should also go through the registration steps. So say you are onboarding through a separate space, or if you're just getting started, this is especially relevant too. You've imported all your clients to the system. So now we need to get the clients to log in and connect to their accounts. That's where the invite would be used. So we're going to invite the clients. And when you invite the clients, it's going to send them an email with a special code. And when they create their account, that code will connect them to the profile that you already have in the system. If the clients were not doing that themselves, they would, let's see if we can, all right. So if the clients are just registering without an invitation, they would just skip the invitation code. And then from there, once they have registered, we can log in as a client and then kind of see what they're going to see. They have their profile they need to fill out. These are, of course, the fields that you see when you are looking at the client profiles, the fields that you would have configured under client fields in the business settings, and their pets, and requesting service too. And I cannot request service with this client because we have a bunch of notifications that need to be done.
So we can turn that off though, right? Right now I do all the bookings, and for right now I'm going to continue doing all the bookings. So this can all be turned off, correct?
If you do not want your clients to log in, that is something you can do. You want to turn off, clients can create their own account. Typically, we recommend, it makes your life much easier if you eventually do get to a place where they're doing all this themselves. It just saves a lot of manual work on your end. But we do have companies that they do all the stuff, their clients don't log in at all. It is possible. All right, so those are essentially the steps to getting started. Once you've done all of that, you should be ready to go and starting to schedule and do all of that stuff. So I'm going to open it up for questions now, and we can just kind of go through whatever you want to see.
So can you walk through a booking, just a weekend booking for 2 dogs?
Do you want to see it from management perspective or clients?
Management.
All right. So you're just going to go to the master schedule. You can find the day and just click new on that day. All that does is fill in the date for you. You're going to choose, I talked about this before, regular training visit. Status, these statuses are, the available statuses are determined by some of those settings we talked about earlier in the business settings. Typically you want to just keep it the default, but you will see what the statuses mean to you depending on your settings. Choose client, and then you're going to choose service and a time. And here we have specific times on, so we can choose the specific time also. And then you're going to add as many services. So these are the services that would take place each day. So say we have a 30-minute morning and a 30-minute, we don't have afternoon here, but there's afternoon. You can have a different sitter for each one if you choose a sitter here.
So will a sitter not automatically pop up that is assigned to that particular client?
If you are within the client's profile when you are scheduling, then it will tell you who the primary sitter is. But here we're on the master schedule, so it doesn't tell us the primary sitter for that specific client.
So I'd have to go to Maya's actual account, which is what I normally would do anyway, in the system I'm using now. So I would go into her account, I would have a primary or a secondary sitter. I would usually pick the primary, but sometimes the secondary, and then book the visit. So
yeah, so
same thing. So I could go into her account.
I'm sorry, and actually I was a little bit incorrect in the fact that you can't choose primary as the pet sitter when you're on the master schedule. It doesn't tell you who the primary is, but it will assign to whoever the primary is. If you are within the profile, it will also say who the primary is.
Okay.
So dates, these are the dates. So essentially the pattern you're going to have if we want to do visits Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for this time period. If you choose ongoing visits, those are the visits that will automatically generate in the future. Those midday dog walks, those regular clients, you can have those as ongoing, and the system will just keep generating on the schedule that you're setting here. And then a few notes. If you were assigning this way, you can send the sitter an email right through this dialog, so you don't have to perform the separate step of assigning. And that's pretty much it for adding as a manager.
So how would I do Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning?
Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning. Yeah. So if we did Friday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if we're doing multiple visits a day, you can skip. So say we're going to skip the morning visit on Friday, and we're going to skip the afternoon visit on Sunday. So that's something you can do here. You can't skip the first two. If you did 3 per day, it's only the first one. But that's something you can do as part of the scheduling here. And you could also, after they get added, you could just delete the ones you don't need if those options were not exactly what you needed. I should also, when it comes to scheduling here, I can demo something that we're working on a little bit. When I talked about some PPC Labs settings, this is going to be one of the things that's in PPC Labs. It's still in the process of testing, but it has been in testing for a while, so it is fully functional. It's called Assign IQ, and this is a tool that you're going to be able to use that will pick the best pet sitter for the visit based on all the information it knows, whether they're a recent sitter, whether they're a primary sitter, whether they're just nearby the visit at that time, or if they live nearby, if they have a key, just all of the different factors that you would typically look at manually. Assign IQ is designed to look at all those things and know who you would choose potentially for each visit. So it's set up to save the task of doing all that manual work for figuring out who the best pet sitters are for a particular visit. And it can also be used for routing as well from Route View. It can tell you what's the best order for the pet sitters to be doing their visits. So see here, it's moving the visits around a little bit based on what the ideal order. So that's just something to keep in mind that may help your scheduling flow. Did anyone want to see any aspects of the system? Do you have any general or specific questions? I'm happy to go over anything at this point.
So where is the pet section? That could be just inside. Can we see inside one of the client's accounts?
Sure. All right. So within the client account, you have tabs for all the information that is relevant to them, pets being one of those tabs. And on this main overview page, you see the pets as well. Here is the pets tab. And then we talked about earlier, if we were scheduling from that client view, then we could, if the client has a primary pet sitter, it would tell us who that is when we are scheduling. Do you have a typical scheduling flow, or like what are you typically doing in your business that you find takes you the most time?
I'm still going to have, my thought process on this, honestly, is I still have to touch that particular booking. So it doesn't take me that much time to do a booking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how easy it's going to be in this system because it doesn't seem like I can just do an easy Friday night, twice Saturday, Sunday morning visit. But it in Blue Wave is super easy. You just go in, you go boom, and then you click on send invoice, and it goes to everybody. The money, how much they owe is there. It goes to the pet sitter, it goes to the client, it goes to me. So it's very easy. It doesn't take very long.
Yeah, and I think that once you get used to the flow here, it's going to be different. But setting up the auto invoicing is something that can be helpful. Auto invoicing is not going to invoice immediately when you add the visits, but
My clients are used to getting an invoice on their confirmation, so they're going to want that. They're not going to want to see confirmation and not see how much they owe.
Yeah.
So some people pay by PayPal, other people I charge their cards, but yeah, they're going to want to see what they already see.
Yeah, and when you're transitioning between systems, for you, it's unavoidable at this point, unfortunately. And as long as you're guiding clients through this process, if you explain up front, things are going to look a little bit different. I think they're going to be able to get used to whatever those differences are.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients, so...
Yeah. And when you talked about doing everything manually for them, but I will say if you allow the clients to do their own scheduling, they can see a price estimate immediately after they do it. So while that's not the same as getting an invoice, at least they can know that number. But they need to be allowed to log in, they need to be allowed to do their own scheduling in order to get that benefit.
Yeah, I don't think I have the time right now to put all of that in place, so I just need to get something simple set up.
Okay, we can certainly work with you on that. From our perspective, I think that it can be easier. That's the default of the system is, and also transitioning between systems is a great time to think things are different. Let's take this opportunity to make things as easy as possible for everyone. So
can I see how many visits Sally Sue has for today?
Sally.
So obviously you don't have Sally Sue on here, but that's just the random name of a pet sitter.
Sure.
Can I see how many visits that one person has?
Yeah, this is practice mode. We've just generated these random visits, but she has 4 visits for this particular day.
So each pet sitter have their own little section?
Yeah, so you have a master schedule, which we were on before. This shows you everything. It shows you all clients, shows you all pet sitters. You can go to tabs. These tabs can be something other than pet sitters to see their specific schedules. You can also click on names like I did before. You can go to the tab for that particular pet sitter. Click on the client name. You're brought to the client's page where you can see their schedule. Right up here, if we didn't have a Sally, did we? We had a Sue. You can just jump right to the client or pet sitter real easily from any page. So it's really set up to be flexible in terms of how you like to view things. We're looking at a 6-week view now. Some people are more comfortable in table view. You can change the colors of the statuses as well if you don't like this red color. Sitter week view is going to show you a week at a time with rows for each sitter. That's something that can be very useful for some people. Sitter day view is another view where, what do we have? We have, it's 1 day view. We have columns for each time block, and we have rows for each sitter. The route view, which I was in briefly, allows you to see a map of their visits, and that was also the place where you can do the route IQ from. And those are all of the main views. Some people like some views, some people like other views, but it's just up to your own preference.
And can you have no color, or do you have to assign a color?
The colors are up to you. So in the business settings, you can customize the colors of the statuses. If you want it to have no color, it could be possible. You can also change, jump to live mode here. You can also add colors to pet sitters. So if I wanted to make Susie a different color, I could do that. Oh, she already is a different color. So now when I look at the schedule in a view, let's see, Susie is standing out because now I've set her to that blue color. And she has a tag. I talked about the tags earlier. Tags can be used to indicate whatever you want, and they can be specific to staff or clients or pets.
And then do you have, as far as reports go, do you have reports in here that you can, like an AP report or accounts receivable report, payroll?
Oh, so the payroll is going to be on the staff payroll page. The payroll is more than a report because it saves the payroll that you've done in the past. And also, if changes happen to visits and past pay periods, those changes are reflected in future pay periods. So it's more than a report. You're gonna run payroll for a specific period, preferably this year, and it's going to tell you how much you have to pay, get a breakdown for the visits, and then once you save, it's going to just watch those visits in case anything changes with them.
We do a report to send to the pet sitter?
To send to the pet sitter?
Yeah.
All right. So pet sitters can see their own. That's a setting, actually. If you want them to, pet sitters can see their own payroll. So that's a setting under pet sitters and journals. You can have them see nothing. Actual payroll is that payroll page I was just on. Estimated earnings would be a report. So if they're going to see estimated earnings, then they can run reports for their own pay or potential pay, estimated pay, because they can run for future visits as well. So that allows you to let your sitters see all that stuff without you having to go out of your way to send it to them.
But it does create a report, correct, or no? So you can see, like they did 50 visits and they got paid X amount, this is how much they got paid.
Yeah. Let me see. Susie, what did we have that setting? Okay, so we have it so they can see everything. So now if this is Susie's pay here. So now if I log in as Susie, because she has access to that payroll, she can see what I could see. She doesn't have the same level of information, of course, but she can see all of that, what the visits she got paid for. So
okay, is there a way there's not a way to just send that out as a report?
No, it doesn't get sent to them, but they do have access to it, if you allow.
Of course, they want to see what they're getting paid for. So.
Yeah, I'm saying there are some companies that they don't want their sitters to see this stuff. So I just like to throw that out there in case any of those companies are present.
So why would you not want your people to see what you're paying them? I guess I don't understand.
I only provide the options. I do not question the motives.
Gotcha. Maybe that's they get paid by the hour or something. But that would be the only time I would say understand why you wouldn't want them to see the visits they've completed and what they get paid.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about accounts receivable? Was there like an accounts receivable report so we know like...
All right, so we do have a number of reports, visit-based reports, gross revenue, net revenue, profit per service hour is a new report. Pet sitter compensation, which is basically a payroll report with the major distinction being the compensation reports are only show at this moment. So if you run a compensation report and something later changes, there's going to be no way to reconcile that. So accounts receivable, aging, sales performance summary, service volume, client satisfaction, and then you can do custom reports and save them. So these are just the visit-based reports. You also have the invoice-based reports. So the visit-based reports, the amount of money is dated on the day the visits take place. Invoice reports dated the date of the invoice, and transaction reports the day you receive the money. So it depends on how you run your business, whatever category of report is going to be most important to you. The visit reports may be more helpful operationally, but when it comes tax season, you're probably going to be doing cash-based revenue because that's when you actually got paid that money.
I took everything over to QuickBooks, so I just need to see who owes me money, basically.
Yes, and we do have a QuickBooks integration, which it's in the billing settings. I didn't touch on it earlier, but you can do that.
John, do you have any questions?
No, the only big question would be the migration of data from the Blue Wave side to the new system here, and the time frame and stuff like that for bringing the information in.
Okay. And did you submit a ticket that had your spreadsheet in it earlier? What was that?
No.
Okay.
We're still trying to get a spreadsheet that has, I don't know.
We cleaned up a lot of it, and we just have to try to coordinate that. So we're still working on that.
Okay.
But we've got a good spreadsheet right now. So John's been doing a great job of cleaning it all up.
Okay. If you need any help with that or just having us assess the spreadsheet, just let us know.
Okay. So you send an email to you, or?
Yep, just send an email and just attach the spreadsheet. If you have any specific questions on it, or if you just want to get a general assessment of if it's import friendly or what we're seeing that may not be import friendly, we can do that.
And what email should I send to? Info@Precise Petcare?
Yeah, that one's fine.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I have any more questions at the moment.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time and joining. And if you do have any questions or if there's anything specific that you didn't want to ask here, just submit a ticket or send us an email, which creates a ticket, and we'll be happy to help you out with it.
Sorry to take up so much of the time.
Yeah, the whole process of changing systems, we understand, is very stressful, very overwhelming. If you're under pressure to do it in a certain amount of time, that adds to that. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible for you. And I'm not trying to push you to do things differently. But I understand that it can be easier if you allow your clients to do things. It can take a weight off of you. Even if you're used to doing it all yourself, having clients do it can really take a weight off.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just not ready to do that. So if I see it, I book it. It also stays in my head a little bit easier than if somebody else just puts a schedule in there and I approve it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know, but I still have to touch it.
Sure. Yeah.
I probably make a lot of mistakes, even when they go through my website or they email me to book services, and it's easier for me to catch it, I think, if I've got to do the booking. That's just what I've found so far. But that might be something I do down the road. But right now, I just need to get things moved over and get used to doing the booking in a new system, get my people used to. They're not going to be probably happy about this either, but we'll work through it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy time to transition. So we're just going to try to make it as easy as possible for you. And part of that is just trying to understand your workflow and telling you what we think is the best way, the most efficient way, the most time-saving way to do it in our system. Because that's a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve. That's one of the major problems that I love solving. Tell me what takes you the most time, and I will either tell you how you can save a lot of time doing it in our system, or maybe we can consider a way, an improvement that can make it easier for you.
Okay. I thought it might be just to share a screen and just show you what I do. It would take like maybe 15 minutes, maybe next week or something, like Monday. I have a call with others scheduled on Monday.
Yeah.
And just show you exactly how I do the system, or the booking in Blue Wave.
Yeah. And that's something that Heather is great at. So if you share your screen with Heather, she's going to be able to, because she probably understands the other systems more than I do, because I kind of live in our system, but she is handling people that have understandings of other systems more often than I do, so she can definitely help with that.
Okay.
But it's a translation, and it's a big transition. Yeah, we'll do whatever we can to make it easier for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.